Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this edition of the Agile Teachers Lounge. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today we have with us Mike Yates, and if you've been on LinkedIn for longer than 10 minutes, you know who Mike Yates is. So I'm going to have him quickly give an introduction for those who may not know. And then we will start trying to pick your brain for nuggets of wisdom, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thanks for having me on the podcast. I'm Mike, and I don't know. I work in education. I do a bunch of different things. At this point in my career, I'm fortunate enough to get to do a lot of the things I want and not have to do a lot of the things that I don't want. So sometimes work feels like play all day. So I live in the clouds. I make cool products that are pushing a large bureaucratic nonprofit towards the future of learning. So sometimes that looks like creating and hosting footwear design competitions. Sometimes it looks like leading the development of a software product. Sometimes it looks like arguing with people on my team about things that I know are true. So like if you know me on LinkedIn, the same energy makes its way into my team meetings. Only it's like me looking like this, like flailing my arms and like literally yelling sometimes. But yeah, I think I pride myself on being a teller of the truth all the time, even when it's hard and people don't want to hear it. And most important thing about me is that I am a husband and a father. I've got 4 kids who are uh you guys probably cannot hear it, but they're making a lot of noise in my house right now. Um, they're homeschooled, and then I have an amazing wife who leads our homeschool program. So,
Jess, do you want to start with our first question?
So, Mike, first of all, it's such a pleasure to get to talk to you. I mean, I've listened to so many of your interviews, so many of your live LinkedIn, so many of your podcasts. That just the things that you do. I love that you just speak the truth of education everywhere that you go, and you really just put it out there. I think one of the times I was on a walk one day listening to you and something, and you were like, we should just let kids like choose their teachers. Why not? Like, why? And I was like, you know what? Why not? It's, it's such a simple solution, but who would just put that out into the world, and just say like, because we advocate for kids' autonomy and for kids' choice, but you're like, listen, why are we holding on to teachers that no one wants to have? You just put it out there and let the kids choose. And I was like, he just brought it to a whole nother level. It's not just choice within this. He's like, no, forget the box. Let's really give these kids independence and choice. And I love that about you, because you just put it out there. So we kind of start our podcast and just asking most of our guests, but I'm really interested in what you're going to say about what the purpose of education is. So why are we involved in this system at all? And what is the purpose to you?
So first of all, I'm always like very shocked and surprised that anyone listens to anything I have to say. So I really appreciate that. It's why I end up taking these breaks from LinkedIn, because I feel like I'm talking to myself. So it's encouraging to hear that people are listening to things that I say.
We are.
Thank you guys. So for me, I think that school or education is, I guess I think it's for the betterment of society, right? Like I think that schooling and education is deeply like I think it's both communal and deeply personal, in that I am now on this kick where I do think families have to be involved in the education of their children far more in the coming days, because as we've provided more and more services for students, we seem to have pushed parents to the periphery. So um, I do think in a lot of ways the purpose of education should differ from house to house, household to household. For us, like we want our kids to be really good people who find work that makes them like really happy and excited to do. It doesn't matter what that work is, so long as it's legal. Um, and just like not socially off. Like if I don't, so it, you know, I have a good friend who, when we got out of high school, everyone's parents was like, that kid's a loser, and he makes more money than most of our friend group. But more than that, like the reason why I think about him is because Nick is very happy. Like he's very happy with his, and he always has been. Didn't matter what anybody said, anybody's mom said about him. And so I think of that for my kids. Like it doesn't matter if you are manager at Sprint Mobile or if you are running your own hedge fund. Like I very much so reject this idea that like school is to produce productive workers, not necessarily.
Mhm.
You could be a starving artist for all I care for. Like, I don't care. Like, if you're doing what you feel like you were created to do, and you have the skill set and the actual options to be able to pursue that, um, as long as that's grounded in realism, and that's what I think school is for. So that means for in practice that we're giving students lots of reps at failing at a bunch of different things that they think they might be interested in at that time. Like when I was 14, I really wanted to be an executive chef.
Hmm.
Um, Today, I would probably not be a great executive chef. Like I can, I can really cook. Like I can actually, I started cooking when I was 10. First meal I ever made was a rack of ribs, like in the oven, brown sugar, garlic infused. My grandmother taught me, like, shout out to my grandmother. So I can like really cook. But I would be a terrible executive chef because I don't have the functioning skills in that type of environment. And I didn't know it until this chef in Houston was like, no, 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 like come see what it's like. And when I heard him yelling at his staff, I was like, yo, this is not what I thought it was going to be. Right. So
And
I
to
think we have to give students more of those experiences and break down the micro skills that they would need to be able to match themselves to certain careers, professions, art experiences that they might pursue.
That's great
smart.
because it all looks romantic until you get in there and it's hot and there's knives,
That's right.
like it's like,
That's
oh, it's
right.
great, but you don't realize to be a chef, you're a manager and like
Yeah.
you're getting burned and you're working late nights. Like the real world of it really comes crashing down and it's not
That's
being in the
right.
kitchen with your grandma. It's just and that's what it is for every job is that we push kids towards these like career paths and we're like, look at the money, look at the
Yeah.
benefits, look at what you can buy and we stop thinking about what is the main function of the job? What are you going to be spending those 40 hours a week
Yeah.
actually doing? Because that matters a
Mhm.
lot more than the paycheck at the end. Um,
Yeah.
if you can
And
survive that, that's your life.
we also tell everybody that they have to be the CEO or the leader of whatever that field that they go into is, which is also not true. Like you could enjoy being a sous chef. Like uh what is his name? A cook named Matt on TikTok. I don't even know this dude. I met him in New York one time, but he is like he was a sous chef and has a TikTok account where he makes all the actual meals that he would like make if he were the head chef. And he prefers it that way. He's like, no, 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 like that's work. That pays for this life so that I could do my creative stuff. So I think
Mhm.
like nobody ever says, I coached basketball for a long time, and I love it. And that's the only reason why I would ever set foot back into a traditional school again is if they would just let me coach basketball and that's it. And I used to tell parents would be upset with me because I used to tell their kids like, "Hey man, like you're not going to be LeBron James, but you can be JJ Redick. Like you can be the guy that LeBron kicks the ball to in the corner. You can be Austin Reeves. Like Austin Reeves on the LA Lakers, that guy, more people should aspire to be him, right? Like you think
Mhm.
about that. Like you don't have to be Elon Musk. Like you can be Markel Baldwin who invented who has the patent for the backup sensors in Tesla and just literally quit Tesla to work in education. Like you can be that guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I think we've got to come at it in all those different angles.
But I think it's really smart, like what you said too, and Jessica mentioned this, like it's different when you get in it. Um,
Yep.
just like teaching. When teaching, I mean, you're growing up, it's glorified. Oh my gosh, you get vacations, you get summers off. But what I have found just being on both sides of it, because I didn't start in education, I started as something else, is that when you're teaching, you're definitely not there for the money. And you're definitely not there for the
Right.
vacation, because on the vacations, it's literally almost like
Well,
mental
vacations.
therapy, so you
Yeah.
can go back and be ready when
Yep.
school starts again. It's not a vacation. You're either training
That's
or you
right.
are mentally exhausted, and you really got to have that downtime to be ready to do it again, because you're not just teaching, you are a parent, you are a counselor, you are a custodian, it's everything. But it is the most rewarding thing besides being a parent that I've ever done in my life. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. But yes, no matter, Jess is right, no matter what profession it is, it's always different once you're in it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
That's so right.
yeah. Something I wanted to ask you too. You made a distinction, and I don't even know if you caught yourself doing it. You probably did, though. You said school versus education. And a lot of times
Mhm.
people use that synonymously. Do you think
Yeah.
there is a difference, or kind of qualifying it the way that you did before, like with education, it kind of differs, the purpose of it differs among like households and parents? Does that definition of school versus education, does that differ between different scenarios as well? What do you think?
Yes. I think it's very different. So the reason why I differentiate is because we homeschool. I have a friend who feels so strongly about this. He says home educate. He does not play with
Mm,
the. There is they. I don't know what else to call it, but there is a learning environment in Barcelona, Spain, that they actually do not say the word school on purpose. They have this phrase where they actually say school is a dirty word, just because of all of the baggage that comes with that for young people. Like when you hear the word school as a young person, you're like, oh, that place.
yeah.
Because that's some now you see adults. I mean, like I I saw this woman in the grocery store who had on a shirt of the elementary school that I attended, and I live in a different city now from where the elementary school that I went to. I was like, oh, did you work there? And she was like, oh, survived 16 years, just made it out. No, it's
Oh
like,
man.
are you okay? But you could just see the baggage of that word. And so but I will even say, like, in the school environment, one of the things that you can't escape, for example, is like the custodial nature of school. No matter how many times people try to get away from that, like at the end of the day, part of your job as a teacher is to make sure that the students in that building are safe. Some people would say, so there's a Mr. Ferroni on TikTok, and he's a content creating teacher. He was like, look, accept the term babysitter because they get paid more than us. And sometimes, so, but like,
Sure.
but that aspect of school, which is caring for kids while their parents are out working, like it or not, I think it's a part of school. And I do think that makes school and like all of its formalities differ from education. The rules are different, right? Like with education, the gloves are off and you can learn and you should be learning. And it's like a sponge to information in almost every way possible. I personally learn rapidly on YouTube, Wikipedia, TikTok. Um, I think one of the greatest exercises any teacher can do is to start posting content on TikTok now,
Mm,
because it behaves like a search engine. And to do well, you have to do SEO type things so you can actually see what types of education content people are searching for now. So I think like that to me, education is everything that happens outside of those walls, but also it includes the walls. It's kind of like I love bourbon. So like every bourbon is a whiskey, but not every whiskey is a bourbon. So it's like school is education too, but education is not necessarily school.
got it.
Well, I think I have a third. Well, we both have a third grader. Well, now they're summer
Almost
kids, so now
4.
they're almost fourth graders. Um, but my son will
Yeah.
tell you he hates school, but he
Yeah.
loves to learn.
Yeah.
So so like he's not allowed on YouTube, you know, unrestricted, but he can
Smart.
borrow my
Mhm.
computer and he can go. And so yesterday he wrote up a report about megalodons. And so he searched it himself, and he wanted to, and then he by hand took out his notebook and then wrote down facts and then wrote me a story about Meg. I didn't ask him for any of this. He was just bored yesterday. And that's what he did. But but he comes home from school and he goes, I don't want to go back. I don't want to go to school. So he loves to learn, but he doesn't like school. And and you see a lot of kids like that, is that they like to learn. They like to learn about all kinds of things. They're naturally curious. All kids are naturally curious. But when we put them in tightly controlled boxes, it takes the joy of learning out of it. So, it is a huge difference.
Yeah. And I'll tell you I don't actually have sponsors. This is not like a sponsored note or anything, but I am a fan of this platform that is just becoming available. I'm thinking about it because you mentioned not giving your kid full access to YouTube, which I actually think what's interesting is the more that we restrict and control access to the internet, I actually think the more effectively young people will be able to use and leverage the internet later in life. Unfettered access to the internet is oh my gosh, it's like you've never told a person how valuable gold is, and then you send them into this vault and all there is gold, and you're like, oh well, I guess I should start picking up different, I don't know, you might drop on your but there's this platform called Wonder, and I met the founder, and his goal is to allow kids to explore curiosity with the with guardrails. And it's an AI assistant where a kid can come and say, hey, what do you want to learn about today? You can say, I want to learn about dinosaurs. And say, all right, well, here's a couple of sources. And they'll send it to the parent first. And the parent can search. And then once you okay it, you can give it to the kid. So just thought about that randomly. But I think that example is so great, especially because around third grade, all the data tells us that kids are going to start hating school. Because that's where that's where teachers start saying things like, in the fourth grade, they're not going to care about you. I don't know if you guys went through this.
The state testing slams down in third grade. That's where it is that my son at the end of the year, he had to take 11 tests in a row because he missed the December test because I took him out of school to see his grandparents. And so they were like, well, he needs his second quarter test and his third quarter test. And I was like, but that logically doesn't make sense, because now you're no sense. you're just having data that's not authentic. And they were like, no, you don't understand. We have to fill it in. And I was like, no, you don't understand how data works. This isn't how it works.
Right.
They don't care about that. They have to check the box. And then also in third grade too, they start hating it because then they start getting labeled and split, gifted versus gifted, or advanced and not advanced, or you need certain, what do they call it, accommodations, or you need extra support. And it just, those kids are brutal with the labels. They know what's going on and they don't want to be labeled that way. Yeah.
Yep.
So since we're talking about education and you mentioned some of the products that you were working on, which sounded really cool.
Yeah.
Are there any things that you're excited about or that keep you up at night, that either you just want to see happen, you want to make this transformation, or something cool that you're working on that you want to share with us?
Yeah. I mean, there are things that I'm working on and things that friends are working on. I've got a good friend who I used to work with, who's building a venture studio for micro schools. And the idea is use state vouchers and just accept hey, we can't do anything about this, but we can build a really cool micro school in your neighborhood that's in walking distance to your house that you can afford with this voucher. And the tuition is the exact cost of the voucher, mine is $600. So it's I'm what a brilliant plan. I also just talked to Matt Bowman from My Tech High, who I think is probably doing one of the most interesting ways for both the public school system, the traditional public school system, and the homeschool ecosystem to not only coexist, but both benefit each other. Where homeschool parents are getting this, they're getting all of these new options free of charge. And public schools are getting to claim bodies and seats, like enrolling these.
Right.
So like it's school choice without the fun leaving the public school. So my take high is I'm blown away by what they've figured out. So some of the things that I'm working on right now, I work at the Reinvention Lab at Teach for America, and one of the things that we're trying to do is trying to help usher Teach for America into the future of learning, as TFA has been an organization that upholds and even created a lot of this sort of like very rigid, no excuses. A lot of the no excuses charter schools came right out of Teach for America. So like me not being a fan of TFA before I joined the organization, and I still have lots of gripes about TFA now that I'm still in this little unit in the organization. I'm excited about what we're working on. We're choosing not to be behind with AI. And we didn't build this tool, but we're partnering with this tool called PlayLab. PlayLab AI makes it easy for anyone to build an AI tool. So like a student, mom, dad, anybody, like it makes it easy to learn how to organize and prompt AI. Built a tool a few weeks ago where you put in any basketball formation and the AI will tell you, it will build you a game plan to beat that basketball formation. Grocery list generator, right? Like you can say, hey, here's my budget. I shop at Whole Foods, and this is how many days I need to cover, and it will build you a menu, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and it will tell you which items to go get, which brands. So PlayLab is great. We've been doing these hackathons with educators, just showing up, introducing the tool to them, and letting them build. And then I also got a shout out. I'm working with a startup called Sizzle AI. That is just one of the most talented groups of people I know that's working on anything together. And they've built like a step-by-step math assistant where like the AI walks you through how to solve math problems step by step, but it never actually gives you the correct answer, which is what I love about it, because it extracts every will of the student to do the work without giving them the assurance that the answer is correct. The only assurance that you have is that you've done the steps correctly, and that you've taken the coaching of the AI. So I just love that one particular, because I like the direction that this company is thinking differently about how you help students. Conmigo is just going to be like, when you get stuck, you will eventually get the answer. That's it. Every student's gripe about Khan Academy is that Khan's voice is boring, and that like you're not actually learning. Like, I wish instead of investing in Conmigo, they would have paid Kevin Hart to narrate 100 videos. Like, legitimately. I say this as many places as I can, and if I meet Saul Khan, I will say it to his face. Like, he run the company, get Kevin Hart, Josh Gad. I always forget her name, but the woman that plays Elsa, from Frozen, you will capture the elementary years like never before.
Oh my God, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Seriously, like get Uzi to do high school. Like,
yeah.
Like,
but that's an important point, is that we still need the application, is that, you need the tutorials, you need someone to run through these step by steps with you so you can figure out the steps of a math problem or how to get through a scientific method. Like, you need that guidance, but you still need application. And that's what a lot of technology and this push has been, just deliver everything to kids. But when there's no application at the end, there's no agency in it. There's no buy-in, because they know they can just be passive and something gets delivered to them. And do you really recognize the value of something without the struggle towards it? So
that's right.
Part of learning is having to really play with your knowledge or play with that new content or that new skill until you can start to refine it and perfect it, almost like, a rock in that tumbler. It has to go through all those iterations for it to really, like, for you to own it and for you to value getting it. So I love hearing that about these new AI developments, is it's not just producing the answer and then you're just moving on. Because, I think that's the biggest gripe with teachers right now about AI, is that it's just delivering the answer and there's no, they don't know how to use it. But hearing that the application, and we're starting to get people in the ed tech space that really understand that the application is important, not all the bells and whistles. The getting the kids to put their hands on it is important.
Yep. It's not just about the content. Otherwise, AI is the same thing as just Google. It's, I mean,
that's right.
Same idea. It's the same idea.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, especially as you, and I'm scrambling to write down all of these different like platforms that you're talking about that have some really cool stuff that they're doing. So so these things are out there, these companies are out there, these developers are out there that are trying to do it in a more effective and innovative way, right? So what do you think is the most difficult thing to get more word out there about what's going on and what's changing? Like, what can be done? And what's the most difficult part about trying to change education? I mean, personally, I think it's people. I think it's just us. We're kind of like stuck in our way, but I don't know if that's accurate.
I mean, I think people is the answer to me that I think of, and I think of it at different levels, right? Like, there are too many parents that don't actually know what's going on with their students' education. Like, we, to the point earlier, like whatever school situation you're in, like, you could probably be doing better, whichever option you choose. Like, you could be doing better. But what that is also like, I the analogy I give is like, nobody ever goes to the grocery store and walks out upset because there was too many varieties of chips or like too many varieties of soda. Like, we like that variety, but for school, for some reason, we think that everybody should choose the same option to school, and everybody else who doesn't go to private school or charter school is like lost their way, as if it's impossible. So I think people is a large part of it from that perspective, but also like from leadership. Like, teachers are suffering. Period. Like, it's gotten to a point where, like, in a lot of schools, it is straight up dangerous. Like, you see more and more videos of teachers getting assaulted in class. Like, something is different. Something is different. And so you have a force of teachers who mean well and who are actually incredible people who have been beat over the head by society, and now some of them are being physically beaten up by students. Right? Like, students have never felt like school is less relevant to them, because as technology races off in the future, and then I will also just chastise the ed tech community for a minute. And like, there are a lot of ed tech founders that are lying about their product. I know lots of them that lie about what their product does, what they have, who they're associated with, how much money they're raising, which gives the most important people in the room, students. You mislead students, and you piss off teachers and administrators. And when you upset the superintendent, or when you frame everybody working in ed tech as like these money hungry, very grubby, like Firefest like people, which some of them are, you make it really hard for those who are really trying to build innovation. Investors, I'm gonna quote another investor so people don't think this is just me, but I don't plan on raising money for anything. Investors are not that smart. They don't know. They're not subject matter experts in most cases. And because of that, the liars in ed tech raise more money than the people making true impact. I they're like, a great example is there's a platform called Click Engage. Did you guys ever hear about Click Engage? But they were basically using SEL strategies to help teachers understand what their students were going through before they showed up in class. So they're making like real deep and authentic, like real inroads. And the founder moved from Boston to Dallas, and I live in Dallas. So like, we met up, and she was like, "Hey, about to shut the company down." And I was like, "What? Why?" And she was like, "I'm tired. I'm tired of the rat race." And it made me really angry because I was like, here you have this product that's actually beneficial. And I think this is the core of the problem in ed tech, is that a lot of those founders they're saying, look, I just can't take it anymore. I can't take the rat race because I'm watching people pass me up who are building things that will literally like keep education in the strength. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I feel it on so
There's too
many
many
different
dollars that go
levels.
to things that aren't.
Yeah, I think what Roz and I talk about a lot is the need to come back to a human connection in school.
Yeah.
And so
Yep.
we advocate a lot for agility. That's why we're the Agile Teachers Lunch. But
That's right.
A lot of what we love about Agile is that it makes it human based. Is that you need to be in groups.
Yeah.
You need to be working with
Yep.
other people. You need to be sharing ideas. You need those AI proof skills that, like, the human skills that are not automated. How do you listen? Are you compassionate? Can you problem solve together? Can you take in different points of view without getting mad at each other? Can you can you be frustrated and deal with the fact that you're frustrated? Those kinds of things that are real issues. And that's why you see these kids acting out. They're frustrated. They don't know how to express themselves. They don't have the language. They don't have the coping skills. Teachers are ignored as not being humans. They're being treated as cogs in a machine instead of human beings that are going to work. The whole system has lost sight of the fact that you're there to serve children and not build a larger system. And so really what we want to get to is bringing humanity back into education. And if you could bring humanity and focus back onto the children and to the fact that we're all human beings, and our goal is to help society, build better people, like, for whatever your future is, we just want you to, like, be good, be the best you can be. Put that back into line instead of stripping it out and trying to make it machine parts. It would benefit the whole system. Do you think that that's something that we could attempt to do, or do you think that that's a tough pull at this point?
I think we have to keep trying. Like that's the thing. I think both. So my answer is yes. Like I think it is. This is going to sound so contradictory, but I think the American school system, is both a lost cause, and because of that, it is a reason why we should spend all of our time trying to recover what is good and special. I mean, the phrase that I stick to, and what you said, Jessica, reminds me of this. Is the only, like, at some point I'm going to become a VC. Enough people have told me to go down this path to where I'm going to become the most non-traditional venture capitalist that ever was, where I do things like spend 6 months with the founder just to get to know who they are and their company before we invest. Like, and like we have a tiny micro fund, just do everything that makes traditional VC upset, because the only technology that matters in education is technology that makes more room for meaningful human moments. At the point in time where you start saying, oh, well, you don't need this position inside of a school, then you fail, you've lost. Like it doesn't work. And this is coming from, so we built a school in Austin called Alpha. And we feel really smart now because 5 years ago, we tried to build this thing called CoachBot, and we acquired a piece of IBM Watson. And we basically like fed sentence stems into this thing to try to make it what ChatGPT is now. We had no idea that ChatGPT was coming. We tried this thing with students and they were like, we hate this. Why would we use this? You're standing right there. I'd rather just talk to you. And they were like, Mike, you tell stories. That thing doesn't tell stories. So I would rather go up to you, get a good story, get a good joke, and then get back to my work. Like that's what I would rather do. And it was like, that was not efficient at all, but that's what they wanted. And efficiency, and like this is what most tech sells, is like efficiency of process, right? Like it's not what we should solve for in school. We should actually solve for this very slow, inefficient process, because a lot of the time learning happens on accident. Learning happens on the detour. Like learning happens when the class breaks down, the lesson plan isn't going right, and you're like, look, we're just gonna talk. like I'm gonna level with you about this event in history, So I think it's so right that, like, this is why I love the way you described agile teaching as well, is like, if using these methodologies to get back to the humanity, that is the only hope for education. It is, in some ways, like the future of education is very much so going backwards. It's going back to sitting in circles. It's going back to sitting in groups. It's going back to ancestral, like, storytelling, communal learning. one of the tools that I forgot to mention that I think does a really good job of this as well, is Unruler.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to see a grading revolution happen in your school, have you used Unruler?
Yes.
Oh, I love that. Like,
It is so amazing as a portfolio system. It's
yes,
fantastic. And it lets
and
you
it
bring
looks like
in all the
Instagram.
different modalities because you have to
That's
value the
right.
fact that students learn differently and that
Yeah,
they're all not going to produce papers for you. And now
that's
who needs
right.
a paper? Because you can auto generate it. So like I need pictures, I need videos, I need
Yep.
sketches. I need you just Simon's good at this, wandering through the woods, taking voice memos
Yeah.
about your thoughts. Like that's real learning though. Like that's you come to this. I run every morning. I have my best thoughts when I run. If I don't run, then my brain's a little dead. The things that come out of your head while you're moving sometimes are what you need, but
That's right.
we need to value that in our students. Unruler really does that. They do a great job of capturing authentic learning moments. All you have to do is take a picture and document it, and you've got it. You don't need this term paper of nothing. That's words right. No one wants to grade. Like
mm-hmm. I mean,
no one wants to write it.
No
one wants to write it. No one wants to grade it. And we all torture ourselves saying that it's the standard of education, and we all hate it.
Yep. And so I tell you the amount of quizzes I've thrown away as a teacher. Yeah. The amount of stacks ended up in that trash can.
Oh yeah.
So what I hear people talking about in conversations like this is some people who've been really wanting to be a leader in education, wanting to be that clear leader for good, can recognize a lot of good intentions just clouded by people being a little bit over certain about a couple of things. And if leadership can just make learning safe again.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I have a question related to some of the stuff you were talking about when you were again mentioning some of the really cool platforms that are trying to do education and learning in a more efficient way. Like, do you have an idea, or is this even possible, like a dream partnership with somebody that you would be a VC for, or some kind of idea or some kind of platform that you think maybe has like a great foundation, but they need some kind of partnership to like cast a wider net and more people are aware? Do you have like a dream partnership in mind, or some in mind that could do that?
Yeah, I have a few. I mean, like I think I think so. I have this giant spreadsheet of learning apps. So my kids do an app-based learning model where like we use adaptive learning software like Khan Academy to speed up the academic portion of the day so we can get to everything else that matters. So it's project-based learning plus these apps that do school. And then my wife also does one-on-one tutoring with them. So that being said, I think if I had a fund right now, I would give Unruler almost anything they ask for. Like not only because the product is great, but their founder, Will Rapoon, is in a lot of ways, he's like the anti-founder. He's the guy who will not embellish. He will not lie. He doesn't want to be known, right? Like he's not like a lot of the founders in ed tech that will publish article after article and produce nothing. He really cares about the mission. So I think Socialpreneur Lab, Socialpreneur Lab is run by a woman named Jamila Peterson, who has bootstrapped this business for the last 6 years by herself. And is an incredible founder. It's a youth entrepreneurship program that helps young people make their first $1,000, but then provides the infrastructure to turn that $1,000 into a sustainable business. So I think that storytelling component I believe in. I believe in the growth and development of entrepreneurs, and not entrepreneurs in the traditional sense, but like my good friend Matt Barnes talks about this all the time, but like an entrepreneurial mindset. So it's not necessarily that you're like starting your own startup, but it's the idea that I can see a problem in my community and I can go solve that problem, even if it's just for me, even if I never sell anything, if I never create a Gary Vee style video, or I can do all those things, right? So it's that skill set. So that's why I think about Socialpreneur Lab. And then I think another platform that I actually want to see succeed is School AI. School AI is, and I would definitely fund them if I had the money, but I don't. School AI is, I think I have the most hope in that product. Basically, what it is it's a teacher's companion, where you could say, like, write me a lesson plan on fifth grade science because I got to be absent, and all of a sudden, you know, I mean, you guys know, like, it takes more work to be absent than it does just to show up while you're sick.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
like they specifically used AI to address that, and the reason why I believe in it is because their founder was a teacher, and that is far too rare in the field of ed tech. Their founder was a teacher who has one of the most incredible tech backgrounds, built the Apple educator ecosystem. He founded Lambda School, and it's just an all around like incredible human being. So I would, if those three are the ones I think of. But there's probably four or five more. Um, I also have we at the Reinvention Lab. One of the first things that I was hired to do is we built this community of innovators in education. And so there's other, there's always other people that come to mind. There's schools that come to mind, like the Life School in Atlanta, one of the most, is one of the best micro schools that nobody's talking about, that everybody should be talking about. Big Thought, even though they don't need any money, Big Thought in Dallas, Big Thought is, again, one of the most incredible community centered nonprofit organizations that nobody's talking about, but everybody should be talking about. So I have like this full list. I have my own, like, my ambitions to do my own, mainly because, like, apparently everybody on Forbes 30 under 30 is getting arrested. I don't know if you guys see that. Like, there's an article that came out that there's like this correlation between like people who win that award, then they get arrested for fraud.
Oh, wow.
Like, to our point earlier, it's like people be lying about what, but in education,
Yeah.
like, you know, when you get caught, it just looks bad. But if it's healthcare, like, you need to go to jail. Like, so, but I do have my own ambition about, I'm trying to pressure the Reinvention Lab into doing this. But I do want to create a hyped up list that like actually means something, where like it's not like, you know, LinkedIn's got the top voices list. They miss every year on the top, especially in the education. Half of them people don't even work in education. We're like, we don't know them. Like, there's some of them that are incredible, but some of them that, you know, so I do want to create one of those lists to give recognition to as many people as we can, that we know of, that are doing great work. We have about 50 of them in this smaller community that we've built. And so, but yeah, if I one day when I raise a fund, those that I mentioned, those will definitely be the first that I would reach out to. But
Okay. Now that I'm definitely interested in, but also because now I'm literally drooling because I would love to know like who's on that list. And what I would love to know even more as a parent who, I think, I'm scared to say this because, again, it is kind of like an oxymoron. I feel lucky enough that my daughter is in what is considered a good elementary school right now. It's
yeah,
good-ish compared to the choices that we have. But I know in my heart that she's not going to a public middle school. There's just not. There's not good options around here for that. So when you mentioned a spreadsheet of learning apps, my ears perked up because from what you're talking about, platforms that you like and how they operate, I'm that parent that can always be doing better. And I'm in education and I can always be doing better, especially by my daughter. So I'm like, well, what does Mike's spreadsheet list look like? Like, I want
oh,
that,
you can
but
have
I
it.
can't.
You can have it.
Yeah, but I want to know like what. Well, I'm going to take that. So don't forget, because when I
Yeah.
start talking, I'm like, Mike, where's the list?
Okay, I got you.
Getting out of
I'm
here
gonna pull it
without
up just so I don't forget. I'm gonna pull it up.
Okay. But I'm wondering, how do you get on that list? Like, are there certain criteria that you look for? Do you research?
Oh,
You just like search for the developer and be like, hey, can we have a talk? How'd you come up with this? Is it that kind of thing? Is it really
Yeah,
that simple?
literally. I mean, for 2 years, I spent 2 years where, so when I was this school Alpha, if you have a chance to visit, it's in Austin, Texas. I always encourage people to visit the school because what it does to see learning that is that drastically different. Alpha is not like walking into an Acton model school. Acton's great. Alpha actually came out of Acton. There are a lot of great alternative schools, but there's a handful of them that when you walk into there, your whole mind and paradigm will shift about learning. Alpha is one of them. So if you happen to be in Austin, um, there's a few others. I think there's one in Pakistan called Leo's Workshop. Like if you show up at Leo's Workshop and you walk out unchanged, I can't do nothing else for you. Like Learn Life in Barcelona, I already mentioned them. They're another one. Um, but what's unique about Alpha is that like normally like when you walk into that school, like a kid will probably meet you at the door and be like, "Yo, what you need? Like, what are you doing here?" Which is really really unique. One of the buildings where they have school is an old bar that used to be this very famous building in Austin. It's like murals of Prince, Willie Nelson, like people in the back. Like we were having school and somebody from Spotify rolled in there and was like, "Hey, we're trying to rent this venue for South by Southwest." We were like, "This is school. You cannot be in here." uh, so when I was there, working there was very unique. It was one of the greatest things that ever happened in my career. But we had one funding source, and that funding source was not intentionally, but very helpful for a lot of us because he was very difficult to work with. And one of the things that he believed is that you had to be an expert on whatever business that you built. Um, and I took that seriously. So I was like, okay, well, we use these adaptive apps, so I'm gonna know every app on the market. And it became this where he would like send us an email like, "Oh, have you guys heard of this?" And eventually I was like, not only have I heard of it, but I know the founder, I know the head of sales, I know how it works. Like I've seen the code on the so yeah, like I just scoured the internet for them and I literally reached out to them. And my one request for them was like, come tour the school and let's see if basically you can give us free access. Uh and then we'll convert into licenses. And had the pleasure of like seeing like like an app like Literal, which now Literal is an app that takes books, translates them into text message interface. We were their first ever pilot. Like they didn't and they're killing it. Was really proud to see that. But yeah, I mean it was just years of that, and then I've just kept it up because my kids are still doing that model. So anytime I find out about a new platform, I evaluate it, and you'll see in the spreadsheet when I send it to you, there's like a rubric on the back where like my kids give it a score 1 through 5. And so I had like even have this like little evaluative metric on it. But there's that. And then I have this like our homeschool model I have like sort of like mapped out on across a couple spreadsheets with there's a breakdown of like if you're going to use adaptive learning software, here's which platforms to use during which grade levels, and here's which like map standardized test score you want to like aim for before you move on. And most of them are free or very cheap. Like because and the reason why I keep it and I give it to everybody for free. I would never ever charge for it because I also have major beef with the homeschool community and how much money that it costs but shouldn't cost to homeschool your children. There's no reason to be paying $1,200 per workbook that was published in '95. We're not doing that. Like, like the world is moving faster than that. So, but yeah, I anybody who wants it, I give it away for free. You can have it. But yeah, it just took me some time. I just keep doing it.
I think that's what really sets it apart, though. Like you talk about this, like the 30 under 30 or LinkedIn's top 50 or whatever, but like you're not talking with people that are passionate about it. You're talking about like in a lot of ways, you're talking about bureaucrats that like have to and it's the same thing. It's the same thing that gets wrong in the whole system is that it builds up into this administrative level and things, and people get so removed from the child that they don't see the impact on the child anymore. And so it really brings that whole conversation kind of comes back down. It has to come around to what is the child's experience with it? What are they getting out of it? What is their application of it? It all comes back to them instead of just, being high up and saying, that sounds like a great system. That's really sparkly. I like that it
Yeah.
makes noises, like bringing it back to the child, because like you said, the child would rather sit there and have a conversation and have a joke and then go
Yeah.
back and do their work than have all the shiny things in the world. They have shiny things. Our kids have shiny things around them all the time. They're not as impressive to them. They're
Right.
like, yeah, I got that. Can somebody tell me a story now? Can somebody just read me a book?
Yeah.
No, very cool.
So thank you, Mike, for coming. We really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule of all the things that you do. If there's anything else that you would like us to include in the podcast, or any place that you would like people to connect with you and see you, if you want to mention your blog, please do so people can reach out and learn more about you and all of the things that you do. So let's do that now, and then we can thank you and let everyone go.
So it's really just LinkedIn or TikTok. At just Mike Yates is my handle. Or if you like bourbon, I have nobody knows this. I have a secret bourbon account that I've been posting on. Nobody knows it's me. And so my plan is to reveal this over time. But if you follow Cinna Bourbon on TikTok, that is me making cinematic videos about bourbon. Because
I love that. The two great loves, education and bourbon.
Yeah. So
I'm down. I'm in.
Yeah,
I have those great
I have
loves
this
too.
ambition. I have this ambition to write a U.S. history course that takes the history of bourbon and walks you through. I mean, it's easy to make the prohibition parallel, but like walks you through.
No, because it does all of it from the revolutions on, from the Industrial Revolution and the Paleolithic Revolution. Well, not American bourbon, but like alcohol in general. Oh, it's so good. I'm down for that book. Thank you, Mike, for coming and sharing everything that you have. We really appreciate it. We appreciate your voice, your no nonsense, very honest voice, really being able to see big picture and small picture in the world of education. It is honestly so refreshing to open up LinkedIn and, you do a little scroll and you're like having your own light bulb moment sometimes. So thank you for putting that out into the world. I know it takes a lot of time and effort.
If you enjoyed this discussion and would like to be a part of the next one, please join us on the next Agile Teachers Lounge.